Almost did the wrong intro. Almost did the wrong one. Oh well. So, hello everybody. Hello there.
Hello
there.
Psycho's going to be a little bit late, unfortunately, but he'll be on here soon enough. I've changed up the format to how we do this now. So we are starting to do just one topic per stream, and then I'm going to ask various questions. We're going to take turns on answering it. So I'm just going to forget about that clip that I was trying to put on here. And it cut Marshall out again. Oh, no. Oh, well. We'll get him back on here. All right. So, today's topic... Oh, hello there, Chrono. Good to see you on here. All right, today's topic. I feel like I didn't start this out the greatest, but we're going to go with it anyways. All right, sequels versus prequels. Oh, this is going to be fun.
No one feels strongly at all about this.
All right, so I have various questions. Once I get Marshall back in here, we'll see which order we're going to go in, because I'm just going to go sort of clockwise with whoever's on the screen here. I want Marshall to get in here before I do that. There's Marshall right now. All right, so... Oh, go ahead. Were you going to say something? Well, I think he's having a bit of trouble with his mic or with StreamYard in general.
Yeah, messing up. So I'm back officially.
Okay, awesome. Awesome. All right, sequels versus prequels. So I've got various questions that I'm going to ask everybody. We're going to answer it in our own way, counterclockwise. You can either answer the question or you can add on to somebody's answer. It doesn't matter. So first one, and you can start with either trilogy. It doesn't matter. You can pick one specific trilogy if you want to talk about, if you feel so. But I'm just going to let y'all decide when we get to it. And let's see. What did they do wrong? You can choose either one. So, Elder Jedi, you're next. Or, well, you're first. You're first.
Ooh, what did they do wrong? Let's see. Let's go with the sequels.
All righty. What did they do wrong? Tell me.
Let me see. I think doing the, let's see, The Last Jedi, how the story goes, it's kind of like a mishmash. Everything didn't go well and everything and all that stuff. Like, it shows, you know how Luke Skywalker dies at the end. For me, it makes no sense. Why? And all that stuff.
Oh,
It's just the general story. It makes no sense to me.
well, it feels like the whole thing wasn't exactly planned, so that could be part of the reason.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, do you have anything else to add to that? Maybe talk about what the prequels did wrong? Your answer was a little short, so I'll give you a little more time.
Yeah. On the prequel side, honestly, what was it? During this one character in the prequels I did not like. I think everyone knows who it is. It's Jar Jar Binks. For me, his character is unnecessary for me. I don't know to everyone else, but it's just really unnecessary.
Well, I can sort of agree, honestly. I mean, Jar Jar I used to like Jar Jar originally, and then I started to hate him like when I got a little bit older, watching it. I'm like, he's a little bit annoying. And then, watching back at it now, I actually sort of enjoy his character. That might be weird, but I do. So
Yeah.
Alrighty. So what about you, Marshall? Tell me what you think. What did they do wrong?
All right. So I will say my profession is actually filmmaking, so I can put in a whole lot for this.
Ooh.
So I would go into the topic of The Last Jedi, actually. With a lot of the things, like especially with the uh, basically when they divert the whole entire story plot to basically make the film longer. And I felt as though that was the actual goal of that film, was to try to reach that number. And you had a lot of stories that were just going back and forth, and also completely diverging when they didn't need to. And again, that's also, I believe, how the effect of how Luke was killed without really much reason is because probably the studio was like, hey, we want to have someone die during this. And of course, our favorite director.
Oh yeah.
It was like, okay, well, let's kill old Lukey boy.
Lukey boy. Good.
And so, he just kind of vanished. And
Yeah.
so did Ryan Johnson's career.
Oh man, if only. Well, no, I wouldn't wish that upon anybody, even though they ruined the trilogy with things like this. Yes, I did add more clips. I'm excited to use all of them.
But yeah, that's mainly.
All right. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're good. But that was a great scene, though.
Oh yeah, I know it.
But yeah, that's mainly kind of what I felt as though there's just really, to be honest, there's a lot of. I wouldn't say very much like in the political standpoint that we see in the political stage, but there is a lot of political background back and forth when it comes to movie studios, and you have a lot of things like directors wanting to throw things out on a whim just to have that that media attention, and because of that, you have some really interesting decisions like the Canto Bight scenes and Luke dying.
It's him.
Yo, we got a full house
Hello
today.
there.
What's up, folks?
What's up?
What's up?
Oh man, this is gonna be fun.
Yeah, that's really all that I got.
Okay. Well, now the order is sort of changed. Thank you, Psycho. Since we're going clockwise, I'm going to go ahead and go on to Commander Tano, and then I'll skip Marshall and then go to Psycho. So go ahead, Commander Tano. Give me your take.
All right. I will begin this with first kind of comparing the sequels to something that the prequels did right, in my view. Whereas the prequels adopted a very skeptical stance towards the group, and when I say the group, I'm being purposefully ambiguous. I can talk about that in more detail later. But so whereas the prequels adopted a skeptical stance towards the group and groups generally, the sequels seem to, I don't know if I want to go so far as to saying they adopted a kind of unconditionally affirming stance towards the group, but I do think they had a very highly uncritical view of the group, and I think that in my view, I think that was a failing and a missed opportunity, especially given what they could have done with Finn's character in particular. What I saw in The Force Awakens was kind of thrown away as you got further and deeper into the sequel story as it developed with The Last Jedi and The Force Awakens. Now, I do think in terms of, the prequels, I won't say political message, but kind of the political questions that the prequels asked, I do think that maybe one failing, if you could call it that, is I don't think that some of those issues were ironed out as well at the beginning for a general audience. I think those issues were ironed out a bit better in the Clone Wars, just because you had more time to kind of hang out with all these different characters and get to understand, understand the politics of the Trade Federation and the Techno Union and the Republic and and Camino and so forth. But that's my basic take on what went wrong.
Well, as far as the politics and stuff like that, yeah, I agree with you on that. Especially since, like, after I read the Darth Plagueis book, I learned a few things about what was actually going on politically with the Naboo situation in Episode 1. The movie itself didn't tell you. So, I mean, that I do agree. They should have probably ironed that out a little bit more. And I mean, as far as politics in general, like I think it was a good idea, just not the best execution.
Agreed. Yes, exactly.
Though I am very fascinated with the politics of the Republic and stuff like that in the first three movies. Though I think it doesn't really show as much of it in the next two movies. I guess because of backlash or whatever, maybe criticism or whatever. But by completely taking it out in the sequel trilogy, I feel like there could have been a good medium. But by destroying the New Republic in that movie, I guess showing that they don't want to show politics, I don't know, or at least the galaxy's politics, I feel like that ruined a little bit of potential there, because the politics itself is sort of like a world building thing, in my opinion. So
Yes.
yes, world building, and the sequel trilogy just sort of does this to it. So
I didn't get a clip. I don't know what happened.
You didn't get a clip? Oh, come
No.
on. Dang it. Well, I'll show it to you later. But all in all, that's part of the prequel trilogy that I really do appreciate. Whether it wasn't done like at its best, it could have probably been done a little bit better, but I still think that it has a place as long as it's done right. So
I have a suspicion why they didn't show us the New Republic in the sequel trilogy. I have a few ideas about why they might have done that, but that's probably for a later, longer conversation.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to go ahead and explain what you mean by that, go ahead. I don't mind.
I personally suspect with whoever was planning out kind of, and I get there in some cases no plan, but whoever's planning out the sequel storyline, I think it's in keeping with, they didn't want, for some reason they didn't want people to kind of consider that the Republic could become the very evil that it's trying to fight, as in the prequels. For some reason, and this may have something to do with kind of our current political climate, where I think just the act of questioning can be seen as, oh, you're sounding like a separatist, or it's very much frowned upon. And I think the sequel movies are to some extent a reflection of that culture and that anxiety about questioning. And I think there's a reason why, you kind of, that questioning Finn you get at the beginning of The Force Awakens is squelched for the remainder of the sequels, for the remainder of that whole story.
Yeah. Okay, I get what you mean. Yeah, that makes sense. Alrighty. So, Psycho. I mean, were you done, Commander Tono? I didn't want to cut you off.
Oh, yep, definitely done.
Okay. All right. Psycho. Hello. How you doing?
Hello, how are y'all? So, primarily, I think for me, the biggest difference between the prequel and the sequel trilogies are kind of like the aspects of like immersion. I feel like there's, like we mentioned, world building. There's a very established world that it feels like not even just, I know we're particularly comparing the prequels and sequels, but even in the original trilogy, I feel like those worlds feel a little more lived in, if that makes sense. um it's weird, you know. I feel like across the and you know, a big aspect of this may have to do with you know, some content that we've got, such as like the Clone Wars series that have given a lot of context to the prequels. So I mean, that might kind of play into what I'm about to say, but um I feel like by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith, there's a real familiarity that you kind of have with certain landscapes and with certain worlds, certain systems. And I feel like in the sequel trilogy, that was kind of lost on me. Like, you see a planet and visually it's enticing, but at the end of the movie, you don't feel like you don't know the name of that planet. You don't know what kind of what kind of organisms live on that system. And I know that Star Wars has never really been about, you know, breaking down the science behind this stuff. I feel like that's probably more of like a Star Trek type thing, to like establish like a realistic, viable science to the lore. But I don't know. I feel like that the immersion is really lacking in the most recent trilogy. And I feel like because of that, you don't really feel like you are kind of being immersed in this like totally alien world. Instead, you feel more like you're kind of a part of this big summer blockbuster film. That's a major issue I have with it.
Well, before we go on, hello, Harkin. How you doing? I didn't get to say hello. Um, Besides that, yes, I completely agree. When it comes to places like Takodana, I think that's how it's pronounced, Takodana, not Takodana. Sounds like a place where you buy tacos.
It does.
Or what was Octu? Like, you don't know. In the Last Jedi, it does give you a little bit of background to Octu, but that I think Octu feels like the one place that we've learned the most about in the entire sequel
Yes,
trilogy.
and not that much even.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
So, and I feel like that's a problem. I mean, especially since it's just a small island that we see.
It
So
also seems like a lot of the different landscapes that we get across the sequel trilogy are not really new ideas. They're kind of just like, oh yeah, here's another snow planet. It's not Hoth, but it looks like it. Like, I don't know. I noticed a lot of that, like a familiar like landscape. Like, of course, like, you know, before we knew anything about The Force Awakens, a lot of us probably saw Jakku and was like, oh, we're gonna get some Tatooine in this. This is sick. And
Yeah.
it was obviously not the case. And to which the it's really weird to me, kind of like, why even establish it as a separate planet, considering that there's nothing that really makes Jakku super unique comparatively to Tatooine. And if they're trying to establish this nostalgia that it seemed like JJ kind of relied on so heavily for, you know, kind of like the fan service and creating the mood for The Force Awakens, which I say this and I do enjoy that film. As I know that, you know, I'm sure you guys do too. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but yeah, I'm just like, if there's nothing super different about Jakku comparatively to Tatooine, would most of us just have rather seen Tatooine, honestly? Like, I know they were trying to do something different, but it's like, if you really are trying to do something different, like, try to do something a little different.
The worlds we. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead, finish.
I am done.
Oh, okay. Chrono says the worlds we see in the sequel trilogy mean nothing to us, partially because they are just clones of worlds we've seen before with different names, and it feels too lazy. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
that's the problem. They might as well have just used the original planets and instead of adding new desert planets. Like, how many desert planets are in this galaxy? I just wonder.
And in a way, they could have it could have been really useful for them to use those familiar planets, because first of all, throughout, like, it kind of does a little bit of the work for them. They don't have to come up with this established lore or history for like the system. It's already there. Like it, and then on top of that, as fans, we see something that we recognize and we're happy. So I'm just like, if you're going to use super similar landscapes, why not just use the thing that that we want?
Exactly.
And the as far as world building goes, like Jakku is a copy of Tatooine, of course, but even though it's a copy, we still don't know anything about Jakku except that it's a big wasteland. But Tatooine, we've seen a lot of stuff about Tatooine, so we sort of have an idea of what Tatooine is like. But we've only seen like a couple areas of Jakku, and I mean, they give us nothing except that there was a big battle there.
And to a degree, that's kind of exciting, because you're like, it opens up a whole new can of worms. You're like, all right, what's with this place? What happened here? But the thing is that they don't really seem to address those questions, and that's sort of the issue.
They do in the expanded universe, the new expanded universe, and that's the problem.
The it was like Jakku was one of Palpatine's stories. If they just explored that a little bit, that would have really.
Oh yeah. I completely agree with that.
The Force just like creating Force use desert planet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right. So I guess we got the first question out of the way. Let's talk. Let's talk about what they all did right. My opinion on what they did wrong. So I'm just going to go on with the next one. All right. What did they do right? And we're going to start with you, Elder Jedi. Go ahead.
Oh, this is a tough one. What did they do right? On the sequel trilogy, I think they got the characters just right. Just like you got Rey, you got Finn, Kylo Ren, and all the characters and everything.
So you believe the characters?
Yeah, I think they got the characters like just on point. But I think that's the only thing I can say about the sequels. Because that's the only thing I like about the sequels is the characters. But
well, I agree somewhat to a degree, and I disagree at the same time. And the only reason why is because The Last Jedi sort of messed a lot of that up for me. But in The Force Awakens, I felt like the characters were pretty cool and they had potential. So I was ready for, to see Rey, Finn, and Poe again. I wanted to see more of them. Then The Last Jedi comes and they're,
yeah, I do agree on you with that. Like, The Force Awakens, you get this brand new trilogy. Like, oh, okay, so this is going to happen next until The Last Jedi that kind of ruined everything. So, like, yeah.
Well, you got anything else to say on that? You got any other ideas on what they did right for, like, let's say the prequels?
Ooh, the prequels. One thing, they got the villains, mainly Darth Maul. He's one of my favorites.
Maul is a lot of people say that, and originally I would agree with this, or initially I would agree with this, but after the Clone Wars fleshing him out a little bit, I tend to disagree with the statement now, that they wasted a villain. And if it weren't for the Clone Wars, then yes, he would have been a waste. But the Clone Wars brought him back, and we wouldn't have what we got now if they didn't do what they did.
And I think that that's kind of why Filoni did what he did with Maul's character too, is because he also saw that potential for Maul as a villain to be so much more than he was left as at the end of the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's very all before even the Clone Wars is how Paul throws away that.
What did you say? Sorry, I think you were cutting out a little bit.
Oh, you're good. It's also an interesting narrative of Maul that even before the Clone Wars, there's a dialogue there that Palpatine just threw away whatever wasn't of use of him anymore.
Mm-hmm. And the Plagueis Book, which is really interesting. I know Elder Jedi hasn't read it, but and so I'm not going to spoil anything. But it's sort of it gives you a lot more details on Maul's character and why he was the way that he was before Episode 1. I guess making him seem like he's a little overconfident and all that stuff at the time. So the way he dies actually doesn't surprise me, especially after I read the book, because he was so confident, especially after killing his first Jedi. He was so overconfident that he can, just mess around with Obi-Wan while he was in the pit, that he didn't see Obi-Wan come up and, well, he's seen him, but he didn't see that coming, and it sort of caught him off guard. So the book gives you a little insight to that. And if you haven't read it, you should. It's really good. But it's stuff like that was created by how his character was taken out, and then on to the Clone Wars, and then even in Solo at the very end of the movie, they all the way up to that point, which is very interesting. So I mean, there's so much they've done with that character specifically, and I really wish to see a little bit more of him, to be honest. I know a lot of people are like, they sort of overdone him now, and like, not to me. All right. You got anything else to say on that, Elder Jedi, or are we good?
I got one more thing.
Okay.
On
Go ahead.
the prequel side, they have the best worlds you can think of. The story was good and everything. It was kind of smooth on the way to the original story. I think everything about the prequels was really good.
Oh yeah, the prequels, in my opinion, are genius, though they may not have been executed in the best way at times. I mean, there's one particular scene. If I had a clip of it, I would play it right now. But I think, yes, you knew it. I wanted to play it so bad, but I didn't get to download that before I did
feel
this.
Like we all kind of knew.
Oh yeah, I mean, scenes like that though, like, I mean,
I have such fond memories with him just for the meme. It's like I can be okay with it being in there just because it's made me laugh so many times.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to get rid of it now that they've made a meme out of it, and I just love that meme specifically. Like, anytime somebody mentions sand, I just say I hate sand. It's weird to me to do that, but I love it. All right, so on to well, you're done, right? I don't want to cut you off before you're done.
I am done. I have spoken.
Okay, you spoke. Okay, well, this is the way. All right, now, Commander Tano, what do you think they did right?
Starting I'll start with the prequel. So my unoriginal observation, the world building. One thing I'm actually trying to look up, trying to compare the runtime for. First of all, what is the runtime for The Last Jedi? Let's see.
It was like 2 hours and 30 minutes, I think.
Okay. And what
the
was
longest Star Wars movies?
Yeah.
What was Rise of Skywalker?
I think it was about the same, to be honest.
So 2.5 hours.
I think so. Yes. Give me a second. I'm looking. I have like the Ow. Dang it. Okay. I'm okay. I didn't die. I have like the collector's edition or something like that. Believe it or not, maybe I can find the runtime on it instead of looking it up. Well, maybe not. Dang it.
I actually have it pulled up here.
Oh, you do?
Yep.
Nice.
It is
Oh.
2 hours and 22 minutes. Just
Okay.
10 minutes.
That
under
is all.
32 or The Last Jedi.
Got it. So yeah, and I'm looking right now, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. So I'm looking at the runtime for Attack of the Clones, and that seems 142 minutes. That's 2 hours, 2 hours and 22 minutes. So the point is that they're just as long, or in case of Last Jedi, maybe longer than Attack of the Clones. They're roughly equivalent in terms of their running time. I was watching Attack of the Clones the other day, and it kind of hit me. It's like there's a lot of great world building going on in that movie, but also it wasn't just that they stuck around in the same place for the whole movie, because you had so much of Coruscant, which we only saw a little bit of in the Phantom Menace. So that movie was basically introducing us to Coruscant. We had Camino, we had Geonosis, we had Tatooine again. We had Naboo again. They kept. It was amazing how many different planets they're jumping between, and I never felt when watching it like, oh, I feel like I didn't get enough of that place, or I didn't understand that place enough and what it was like. Whereas if you compare, say, The Last Jedi, which I believe we established had a little bit longer running time, it's like you're pretty much with The Last Jedi's, bopping between, space, you're hanging out with Rey and Luke on Octu, or a little bit of Canto Bite, and then the little bit of Crate at the end. And you don't have in other words, they're not jumping to and from as many places, in my view, as they are with Attack of the Clones. But for some reason, I walk away from Attack of the Clones and I feel like there's much better world building there in that movie. And I'm trying to figure out what's kind of the missing part of the equation, what you don't get in, say, The Last Jedi that you do get in Attack of the Clones. And I would also say with Rise of Skywalker, it's like, that's obvious where that went wrong. Like light speed skipping. Like you literally did, they tried to fit far too much into that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
I think it's interesting with Last Jedi and Attack of the Clones. It's like Last Jedi spent a little bit more time in the same places. At least I felt that in the audience. So yeah, that's my short answer. I think what the prequels got right, world building, and I don't know quite how they did that, but they did. What the sequels got right, I would say they definitely created.
I'm sorry. I
They
love
fly
it.
now.
Hey, hold on. Before you finish that.
Oh, they fly now! They fly now! They fly now!
I'm
Okay.
not getting any of these. What's going on, man?
I don't know. Okay, go ahead.
They're a little
Commander.
bit delayed on mine. Yeah. Yeah, so I'm getting them on occasion, but sometimes they're a little delayed, it almost seems. But yeah, so with the sequels, they did create some characters that I wanted to be invested in, and there's something to be said for that. I think, I think it's very disingenuous for Disney or people shilling for Disney saying that, oh, Star Wars fans can't ever be pleased. They just hate everything that Disney's producing or some rubbish like that. It's like, no, I think, in fact, most of the criticisms I see of the sequel movies often involve suggestions about what could be improved, or how, or like, oh, this could have been a really great idea. If you just did it this way, then it would work. So yeah, I would say it created some characters that I really wanted to be invested in. And I was invested in at Force Awakens, but something happened along the way.
And speaking of Attack of the Clones, I'd like to talk about a moment that when it came out, a lot of people like to say was really fan servicey, but I would actually argue comparatively to some of the moments that we got sort of like peppered throughout the sequel trilogy, it's not so bad. And I would even argue that it actually feels like it has sort of a place of necessity and doesn't exist just so just I get so agitated when characters like that we love, like R2D2, is just sort of treated like a decoration that you can point at and be like, oh, that's that thing that I know. Um, so I wanted to talk about the Homestead scene in Attack of the Clones, where you actually get to see, you know, Lars's homestead far before Luke or any of that. When that came out, um, a lot of people were like, do we really need this? This is like kind of unnecessary. It felt like it was almost like too much of a reach of like putting things together, but I don't really think so. I think that it does kind of make the story have a bit of cohesiveness, and when you compare it to some of the moments like I said, throughout the sequel trilogy of kind of when you look at how they treated a lot of beloved characters, and I feel like they kind of just are used sort of like a familiar face to kind of get you excited about a moment that's not so interesting when you really think about, oh, the stakes are not really super high here in this moment. Which obviously there are moments where the stakes are high. I mean, obviously for Han, he found that out the hard way. The stakes were pretty high. Um,
That
but
gives me an idea for a clip.
yeah, I know exactly what you're thinking, and it needs to be a thing. And you know what? Screw it, Matt, the radar tech guy. We should throw some stuff in for him.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I heard he's good friends with Kylo Ren.
I heard that Kylo Ren is shredded. The Kylo Ren
Yeah, he
has
has like
an
a
8-pack.
Oh god.
But yeah, I was just thinking about that the other day. I remember thinking about how I remember people were like made that a point about like seeing C3PO like they're like did we really need to know that Anakin created C3PO, like all like people complained about that, and I'm like, at least they took that character that people love from the original trilogy and they gave it some necessity. It wasn't used just as a prop or a familiar face to make you excited, about a moment. Like C3PO was created because Anakin's mom was a slave and he felt bad, so he built something for her to help her with chores around the house. It's kind of sad when you think about it, but you definitely cannot make the argument that it's like you can say you don't like the decision, but you can't say that it's like that it's not essential. I feel like it adds to C3PO's character. It doesn't do the opposite, you know.
Agreed.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that's the big issue that
Mm-hmm.
that we have with the treating of the characters, with throughout the sequel trilogy, is that they weren't treated with true necessity or true importance or significance, as they were just kind of, I don't know. I feel like they were just sort of used as kind of pawns to push the story and the narrative further, kind of in a way. Like, I don't know. I really hate I really hate that, like, I know that they were trying to say this is a new story with new characters, this is a new generation, but I don't know. I really don't like that they killed off literally like every single legacy character.
Except for Lando and Chewie.
Yeah, but can we talk about that fake out Chewie death? That was lame.
uh, yeah, that was yeah.
Yeah, that
I
made me so upset. I like
Yeah.
screamed in the theater, and once I realized he wasn't dead, I was just so angry that they had tried that they played with my emotions like that. I was like, you know what? I don't like this movie. I think that was the moment when I was upset.
that was you. Did you see that? Please tell me.
No, I didn't.
Dang it!
I didn't see it either.
Was it the youngling?
Yes.
Oh my god, dude. I knew it.
Oh man.
There's
Okay.
too many of them.
Yes. Yes.
Master Skywalker.
There's too many of them. What are we going to do?
It's like, oh my god. I just wonder what was going through Anakin's mind in that scene.
Oh, I know. Hold on. I got a clip for it.
I won't see it.
If it's a robot chicken,
where the fun
scene,
begins.
I'm the only one missing these, dude. What's going on?
I don't
I'm
know.
so
Maybe you should
angry.
maybe you should leave and come back, and then you should be able to.
Maybe you should leave and come back.
Okay. Are we gonna do this here, huh? Is this what we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
do?
leave and come back.
Yeah. Okay. Oh man, I'm having too much fun. Let's see. I'm gonna read a couple comments here. I've been neglecting them. Let's see. The characters in the sequel trilogy were good enough to carry the new adventures. They truly felt like Star Wars characters, but yeah, they messed them up. I agree. And he also says there's no such thing as too much mole, which I also agree. Prequel trilogy had kitchen sink syndrome, but everything had something tied to it. True. Sequel trilogy also had kitchen sink syndrome, but they were just points. Yes. Everything you just said was right. Okay. I had to make that small joke. All right. Do you have anything else to add, Commander Tano?
Nope.
All right. And I guess we'll move on to Psycho. Tell us, Psycho, even though you probably got out most of what you were wanting to say, but go ahead anyways. Tell us what they did right.
So prequels, pros, great world. Well, I'm gonna go. Did we talk about what they've done wrong, or is that?
Yeah, that was the first question.
Okay.
That was the first question.
My brain is scattered. So what they did right, prequels. Obviously we've all touched on kind of world building. Also, making you care about the characters. I don't know. Like I wanted to like Tano said, like I really wanted to be invested in characters, especially like Finn, who I thought like as soon as I saw him walking through the like Jakku, in the stormtrooper armor, like sweating up a storm, like in like the first Force Awakens trailer, where it was like super mysterious, like nobody knew who he was. I was so intrigued, was so interested, and I was really excited about Finn. I felt like it went nowhere, but I was really excited about Finn for what it's worth. And that's so I feel like they kind of are opposites in that regard. But yeah, definitely the prequels for sure got the character development aspect right and the world building aspect right. I also think that the prequels kind of serve as an early example of what CGI could do, and I think that's very impressive. That probably a lot of what was done in the Star Wars prequels kind of paved the way for a lot of stuff in digital editing and digital design, further on down the line. So that's another thing. The prequels also gave birth to some of the best Star Wars content, hands down. We've got games like Star Wars Battlefront 2, Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which of course, yes, they have elements of both trilogies, but the point that I'm making is that these things can't exist without prequel era content as well. So you got games like that, and then plus you've got, I don't know why I'm blanking right now. The Revenge of the Sith game, which is amazing.
Oh
Republic
yeah.
Commando. We got
Ooh yeah.
Clone Wars. I mean, all these things that can't exist without the prequels. So the prequels gave birth to, well, not gave birth to. That's a weird phrase, but the prequels basically,
Paved the way.
paved the way for a lot of really, really great top tier Star Wars content. As far as the sequel trilogy, what it did right, first of all, right off the bat, the soundtrack. John Williams is always consistent no matter what. Even though I think that the Revenge of the Sith soundtrack is probably my favorite. It's just so dark. It's nice to be able to be like, you know what, no matter like how I feel about this movie, at least the soundtrack is still like really solid. So that's one thing that I can respect about it. I mean, the sequel trilogy is very visually fun to watch. So that's one thing that it does right. There's also a lot of practical effects that are used in the sequel trilogy, which is pretty interesting. So yeah, visually, it's a visual spectacle. Plus, I mean, I think Kylo's character arc is actually pretty interesting. And even though I don't agree with certain parts of, not every part of how they dealt with his character, overall, I really like his arc. I really like Adam Driver a lot. And even though I don't like Rey, I feel like she kind of had her moments, and I have moments of, honestly, I have moments of enjoyment with pretty much every character other than like Rose throughout the sequel trilogy. Like, even if I pretty much hate their character, there's like moments that I'm like, that was dope. Like, in The Force Awakens, where like Finn, or not Finn, when Poe comes in and he like destroys all those TIE fighters, and
Yeah.
Finn's like, yeah, that's one heck of a pilot. Like that scene, every time I get so hyped. Like there's just, and I just have moments like that with every character, regardless of, if they're my favorite or not. I feel like I have moments that I root for them, and that is something that I will say about their character development. It's very hit or miss, but I do find myself at all times generally tending to root for most of the characters, other than a certain handful.
Oh man. Sir Harkin, I just got to say yes to that. So that's all I'm going to say about that. And as far as what you were saying, I agree. But it seems like the only good things, and there's probably some other good things about the sequel trilogy that we're not mentioning yet. But the only good things that we've really been able to mention is more of the technical side.
That is true.
True.
As far as like a story, from like a storytelling aspect, I don't really think that there's too much to write home about. Like, I think that there's some good ideas that, if they were fully fleshed out, could have really worked. But the obvious, like, real pitfall of the sequel trilogy is just major lack of planning all around. I remember when they said, when they finally came out, and I don't remember exactly what they said that indicated that they really had no roadmap. Star Wars Theory made a video so upset, and it was a comment I didn't think anything about, but like reading into it, it was like they kind of did admit that there was no real vision. It was kind of just each like director kind of coming in and being like, this is the story I want to tell. Let's get to it. And honestly, I think that's kind of unacceptable when you've got something that's as important as Star Wars that you're working with, it's not quite as simple as just telling whatever story you want to tell. You have to ask yourself questions like, does this work within the world that I'm working within? And if the answer is no, regardless of if the story that you're telling is this Shakespearean masterpiece, it's not going to be a good Star Wars movie. And that's the thing. It has to work within this world. These characters that are established, that have been established for decades and decades and decades at this point, they have to stay consistent with what's established, or otherwise people get upset. And some people think that that's like unreasonable, but I honestly think that there's when it is something that is just important to all of us, there's a way that these characters should be handled and dealt with, and I feel like we should hold people accountable for that. You know, like,
Yeah.
and I'm not just saying just hate on anything and just not be satisfied with anything, but don't excuse lazy writing either. Like, it's when it's clear that they have no plan for what they're going to do for an entire trilogy, that they're not sitting down for a road with a roadmap saying this is how we're going to do this. Like, I just think that's so irresponsible. Like, you're going to pay, what did they pay for the franchise? It was like $1 billion, wasn't it?
Oh, Chrono, help me.
Let's just say it's an astronomical amount of money. So let's just say you're going to pay an astronomical amount of money for a franchise just to not, like, put any care into writing a story that fits within the world that you're working within. Like, I don't understand that at all. It just seems like there's a kind of lack of effort to make this thing work.
4.2.
1.2?
Yeah,
$1.2 billion.
Harkin put it in the chat
They
there.
paid $1.2 billion for this franchise and then sat down and didn't plan out the
4.2.
They didn't plan out the series of events that was going to transpire without the course of the trilogy. How does that make any sense? That sounds like a ridiculous gamble for a huge monopoly like Disney to take, to not take that step in planning. Especially, regardless of if you think that Star Wars fans are not satisfied with anything or not, I think that's kind of ridiculous. But we do have the reputation for being that way. So because we have the reputation for being that way, I don't know why they wouldn't put a little more effort in, honestly.
I mean, I think they did have a plan, but it's not the kind of plan you think.
You think their plan was just to push their own narrative?
Let the past die. Kill it if you have to.
If you seen that, did you see that clip? Please tell me you did.
I didn't.
Dang it! It didn't work. Oh well. Basically, I played the clip that Kylo Ren says, "Let the past die." That was their plan.
On those clips, it's I show like it says tap for sound and it freezes. So I think it.
Yeah, that's what mine's been doing.
Huh?
It could
That's
be
weird.
just.
I've not done that.
Mine's been working just fine.
What
about you, Commander Tono? Is it still working? Maybe. I don't know. Harkin, Chrono, tell me how the clips are working on your end. All right. Well, you got anything else to add to that, Psycho, before I move on to Marshall here?
I do not.
All right. Well, Marshall, it's your time to shine.
Come on, beautiful boy. Do it.
All right. Prequels good. Sequels End of story. I'm kidding. So let's see. I want to actually start with the prequels. So I will say, first thing I'm going to say is I believe the prequels did extremely well showing the basically a democracy coming to an end. And all the corruption that happens with it. And honestly, I like the how they went into kind of like this political back and forth that was going on to it, and it actually showed the genius of Palpatine and how he's able to navigate for his own agenda. Also, the I feel as though like I actually got really connected with like all the old characters like Anakin and Obi-Wan, and I mean even Grievous, because I felt as though like you can really tell this that Lucas, he had this connection with these characters, and he put a lot of care and love into these characters, and you can really like it translates well to film. And it's kind of the same way with the sequels as well, that but there really isn't much of a love and care to this character.
I completely blanked out. Oh gosh. Uh, Now repeat what you said at the very end of that, because I didn't hear that part. Let's see. Did you hear me, Marshall? I think we're having a little bit of mic trouble on here.
Yeah, we might be.
Yeah.
I've had
There
some
we go.
too. Sometimes
I
when
don't
you
know.
hit the unmute, it'll mute.
Huh.
All right.
That's a little weird.
All right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I hear you now.
Yeah, I do as well.
I just
Same.
kind of blanked out. I don't know what that was. The all right. So I'll go back into it. Is I could tell that Lucas had a lot of love and care for the characters that he was writing, and that translated well for film. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to make sure. It translated quite well for film, and you as an audience, you cared for the characters even more because you could tell that. And it also kind of translates well with the sequels as well, but not as well as effective as it was. The characters are good. I followed the characters quite a lot, and I cared about Kylo Ren's story. It just there wasn't much of that love and care with that.
Yeah. I agree.
And,
go ahead. Sorry.
yeah. And that's really, and that's basically kind of what my thoughts are. There's a lot of there's a lot of different little things. There's a lot of more innovation when it comes to the prequels as well, and George is a excellent world builder. Sometimes him as a director, he has his faults, but he's an excellent world builder. And with the prequels, I mean, we had some phenomenal directors as well, like J.J. Abrams. He's great. And I think it was just to the fault that was things changed very quickly, even like later on to filming schedules, just because of response to other things. And I felt as though like if they just stuck with it and stuck with their guns instead of like going with it and then taking a couple sets back, we could have had actually a beautiful masterpiece to that.
Oh yeah. I agree. I mean, as far as the world building, I feel like the stream should be more of like the world building of the prequels kind of thing. I should just make that into a topic all its own, because we can go on forever talking about the world building. But I mean, I completely agree with everything you just said. Yeah. You got anything else to add on there, or are we good to let me say what I gotta say?
That's all I got.
Okay, so I'm after hearing everybody talk about it a little bit. I mean, I guess you guys have already said basically what I thought about it. As far as seeing the good in the sequels, I mean, the sequels had potential with the first movie. So, I mean, I did like the first movie. I did. But after The Last Jedi, I'm like, eh. And then Rise of Skywalker just went even more, eh. So, I mean, it's hard for me to say anything super great about it besides the technical parts, which we can all universally agree the technical aspect of those movies is great. The only problem was the planning and all that stuff. But as far as the prequels, we can go on for a long time. I mean, even though the execution may not have been the greatest on certain things, there is so much in the prequels. I mean, the fact that the prequels can, I guess, how do I say this? The theories you can come up with the prequels. There's like a lot of untold story within those movies that the movies themselves sort of lead you to believe. They cause you to ask questions and all that stuff, but not in the way that, let's say, The Rise of Skywalker does. You have like these theories that seem entirely possible thanks to certain events in the movies. They may not explicitly answer those questions in the movies, but they do give you like these questions aren't like main story points that you're asking questions like what's going to happen to this if this happens. I'm talking about like because it really doesn't affect the main story too much. Like, how did Padme die? I mean, she didn't just die of sadness.
Sure.
So it's stuff like that that the prequels force you to ask, and then they like answer it in, let's say, a book or something like that. So they don't make you ask questions about main story points or anything like that, like the sequels did. I might be explaining this a little bit poorly.
No, I totally understand what you're saying. It's like you ask questions about things not in a way that breaks the story, but in a way that makes you have a curiosity about it. And
Yeah.
I think
There
those
you go.
questions, like those curiosities, at least for myself, is like something that majorly like contributed to me falling in love with the prequel trilogy the way that I have. And I do think that that's a major issue with the sequel trilogy is that I don't really ask questions about like things that I'm curious about. Like I don't have growing curiosities. I have like growing concerns. And it's like the things that I would think about consistently, it were just like things that I'd be trying to explain to myself why something doesn't break the story. Because I wanted to like it so much. I was like always wrestling with myself in my head. I would think of something and I'd be like, nah, there's got to be a reason for that. I guess I just haven't thought of it yet. And then it goes on, and then it goes on, and then there's never really an offered explanation. And then you're just kind of like, well, maybe it's just not a good movie.
Yeah. I mean, the sequel trilogy doesn't give us theories exactly to want to question about it, or something that we at least care to question about. Let me put it that way. Like Snoke's ring is probably one of the only few things I want to talk about at some point, because there was like this big hype around it, and there's like maybe some interesting lore about it. That's one of the only few things that you can find in the sequel trilogy, or maybe Rey's parents, which they unfortunately answered in The Rise of Skywalker. That was one of the only other interesting things that we wanted to talk about that would possibly be answered within the trilogy. Which, however unfortunate it is, the answer that we got. But the prequel trilogy, like, gives us all these other things to talk about. And I already used Padme's death as one theory. that it brings up, but there's so many others. Like, is Palpatine, let's say, influencing Anakin through those dreams that he's having? It's small things like that. So the prequels do a really good job at just making you wonder in a good way, not like the Rise of Skywalker does by giving Finn force powers apparently and not explaining anything about it. So, I mean, as far as I'm mainly talking about what the sequels did wrong. Now that I think about it, but as far as what they did right, it's just the technical stuff for me. I can't, and maybe some like the Stormtrooper designs. Oh my goodness, I love the Stormtrooper armor in the sequel trilogy. I don't care how bad the movies were. The regular Stormtroopers, the Snow Troopers, and the Sith Troopers are like some of my favorite armor designs in Star Wars. I don't care what anybody says. I love them. But that's just one of the only few things, though, that I do like about it. Maybe some of the ideas, like you said, Psycho, but it's nothing like the prequels at all.
I was pretty fascinated, I will say, kind of when they brought in like, oh, Poe kind of has like he has a background story, like he was a spice runner, like. But I just feel like it kind of fell flat, and I ended up not caring as much about it as I thought I would. Like, I was like, oh, this might go somewhere, and then I was like, oh, it's not really all that interesting, I guess. Like, I don't know. That's kind of how I felt about that character arc. Is I really wanted to like I really wanted to like Poe more than I did. I really like Oscar Isaac as an actor. He's like really cool, and like, I don't know, like I kept wanting to like that character and be interested in him, and I don't know, like I feel like honestly his attitude is kind of turned me off of him a little bit more than anything. And honestly, I don't know how much he grew. Like, I feel like
he didn't.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he did learn from how arrogant he was in The Last Jedi, but
well, see, the thing is, though, I disagree with that. I mean, I agree but disagree. He wasn't arrogant like that in The Force Awakens. They just added that in there so they can demean him for the rest of the movie. And then they continued on with his attitude problem in the sequel trilogy. Or sequel trilogy. I'm looking at the word sequel, and in The Rise of Skywalker. Forgive me.
Yeah, I definitely preferred his character in the Force Awakens, for sure.
Yeah, he seemed like an experienced soldier that was doing his best to help everybody. Not some trigger happy flyboy, I think is what they called him in The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
He didn't act like that. He acted like he knew what he was doing. And then in The Last Jedi, they go and make him into like this overconfident, cocky person. And it's really frustrating. It's a big character shift, and I did not like it.
And I agree.
Also, I apologize in advance if my phone dies. It might happen.
DMD, was it? Sorry.
Did you hear me?
Man.
Can you hear me?
The stream is doing as great due to my internet connection. It might be DM goes. Basically, it talks about Finn and how he couldn't pilot in the Force Awakens, and after he comes out of the coma that he was in for like, I don't know, I guess a few hours. I don't know. He's finally able to pilot, and that was in The Last Jedi. So he goes from not knowing anything, then going unconscious after fighting Kylo Ren, and then knowing how to pilot within just a few hours, apparently. So that is just proof they had no plan for the sequels because nobody was consistent. So I think I've got what I wanted to say out of the way. I didn't say much good about the sequel trilogy, unfortunately. I wanted to say something good, but that was a little bit difficult. But we are going to go on to the next question I'm about to ask, and that is, are the prequels still hated? And I'll go ahead and start with this one because I just want to I want to say something about it. I say yes, but not as much. Let's see. Hold on. Oh, okay. All right. So yeah, they're not as hated now because we've gotten something that is worse, and that's objective. That's not objectively, but that is, I guess, my opinion. Everybody has their own opinion. Everybody can like what they like. There's nothing wrong with liking, let's say, The Last Jedi. But I mean, and I point that one out specifically because, in my opinion, it was the worst one of the trilogy. But as far as like liking the sequel trilogy, you can. It's all up to you and all in what you like. But as far as the sequels being hated and all, or the prequels being hated, they still, I think some people are still. Oh, I got a perfect clip for this. Hold on.
No, you're still holding on. Let go.
That's what I say. That's what I say. They're still holding on to that hate, and they won't let go of it. I wanted to use that clip so badly. All right, but that's all I gotta say about it. So, Elder Jedi, what do you think? Are the prequels still hated? Hated? Tell me.
For me, I think so. Before the sequels ever came, I don't think that they like how it went into the original Star Wars trilogy. There's not much to say about this, but
Nah, it's more of a shorter topic.
yeah,
question.
just like many, I don't think they like how, like I said, the how the story went and all that, how Darth Vader became to be or something like that. But yeah, basically that's it.
All right, Marshall, what do you say?
So I would say yes, but not as much. Like everyone is saying, um, there is, they still have their faults, and but to be honest, I think that you have a lot of nostalgia, and that's a huge part of that. Nostalgia makes us reminisce on this and allow us to actually take a look back in a different point of view or a certain point of view, and it changes how we think about it, like mentally. For example, I mean, I know this is maybe a bit controversial, but probably 10, 20 years from now, we're going to be looking at the sequels and be like, oh, that was actually kind of good in some aspects. And I mean, it depends on the person, but yeah, I think there's still some hate, but we have a lot of there was, like what Peyton said, or no, Psycho was saying, is there's a lot of there are a lot of questions that we could ask, and because we were able to ask those questions, we were able to form something that was special to us.
Yeah, I agree. I've seen a tweet on Twitter just the other day. Somebody was saying that the Phantom Menace was the definition of an underrated masterpiece. So this is a little bit of a bonus question. But do you guys feel the same way?
I agree. There's a, about everyone didn't like Jar Jar Binks at first, but when we went back to it, it was, we can see the masterpiece behind it.
What about you, Commander Tano? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I'm actually trying to think how I'd rank the prequel movies generally. Like, obviously, I like, I think I'd probably rank Revenge of the Sith the highest, but in terms of the Phantom Menace, yeah, I think I would agree. I think it's, I think that, while they're definitely, as I mentioned earlier, I think they could have maybe handled some of the exposition a little bit better, and I do get that it's kind of hard to condense this much kind of political, set up an exposition for all the political events in that universe and so small of a space. But yeah, I think I'd agree with that. Jar Jar aside.
Yeah, besides that, which I don't know about you guys, but I've said it multiple times, but Jar Jar has grown on me. I don't think I would want to get rid of him. Maybe do him a little bit differently, but still sort of keep the essence of Jar Jar, but maybe less annoying at times. But as far as that goes, I mean, I wouldn't get rid of him for nothing anymore. I mean, I feel like he's sort of essential to it, to the trilogy itself, not just the first movie, but the trilogy. But like I said, they could have done him better. And I really hate that the actor got harassed about his performance. I mean, he's just an actor being directed in a certain way. They shouldn't harass the actors for this kind of thing. And I'm ashamed of the Star Wars fans that did that. So I do not condone that kind of thing.
Yeah, poor Hayden.
Yeah. Well, so Commander Tano, what do you think about the prequel still being hated though?
I think if they are still hated, it's like, this won't make it. It's kind of an affectionate hate, if that makes any sense.
I think I get it.
It's one of those things where I think it's more of like, and I think I've mentioned this in a past stream, where it's interesting with, I think it's more of kind of like making fun of, like, oh yeah, memes about sand, or stuff like that. I don't really, it's like, I don't know anyone who hates them. At most, people are like, that bit of dialogue was a bit cringy, or oh, they could have done this better, or oh, the CGI on that doesn't look, stuff like that. But I really don't think they're hated. I think it's in part because you have other stuff, other media like the Clone Wars and so forth, that I think has done a lot to, maybe not, I wouldn't say go so far as to say revise, but patch up some parts of that story in those three movies. And also, I think that, I think it's just something interesting about that generation of fans who either grew up with those, or, even people who like the prequel movies, they seem more willing to just kind of make fun of them at the same time. And I think that's just, you know what I mean? And so I think that it's just, there's so much less tension around that. Whereas, and I could be wrong, show me examples of this, but I feel with the sequel movies, it's like you get a lot of people who like hardcore love them, but can't also bring themselves to make fun of them, and just kind of just like, a lot of people like the prequel fans do. It's not just people who, quote, hate them that make the sand memes. It's like people who like them make the sand memes too. So I just don't detect a lot of hate, actually.
Well, you took the words right out of my mouth. I wanted to mention that myself as well. I guess I'll expand a little bit on that. I've seen so many people defend the sequels. So if you make a slight joke at, let's say, the kiss between Rose and Finn, well, not the kiss, but the dialogue before that, you don't defeat, or you don't. How did that go? You don't win by saving the ones you love, but it's the other way around. You don't win by fighting what you hate, but saving what you love. That's how many times I've watched that movie. I can't even quote that correctly. A lot of people can make fun of that, but then there'll be these people that come and hardcore defend it, be like, oh, that was the best scene in the movie. Oh, you shouldn't be making fun of that. That has true meaning. And then there'll be those other people that just they talk about the sand meme. They're like, I hate sand. And then like even the people that love it are like, we'll finish the quote. It's coarse, rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere. So, that is the true difference between the fans of the prequels and the fans of the sequels. And honestly, like we've all said so far, the prequels seem to have lost a lot of the hate that they had, but there are those people that are
No, you're still holding on. Let go.
so. I love that. I love it. Let's see here. So, with that question aside, I mean, does anybody else have anything to add to that before I move on?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
On the episode 1, when Qui-Gon was talking about the Force, it's saying it's midi-chlorians. That would make no sense.
Well, yeah, a lot of people hated the midi-chlorians, and I didn't really understand it. I don't understand why people hate it so much. I guess the people that loved the way the Force was portrayed originally, I guess they think that it shouldn't be portrayed as like these little how do you put it? I guess symbiotes within your cells, or microscopic organisms, which are symbionts. So,
kind of what I thought about that was, like the difference between the prequels and the original was, the original you had this more mystical viewpoint from Yoda, and but in the prequels, the Jedi were very like so blinded by, I would say, the dark side, or more from their hubris, that they took away the I would say the spirituality and the connection from the Force, and just said it was science.
yeah, exactly. Bacteria. Chrono says bacteria. Well, I mean, that's sort of. I mean, we sort of had this discussion before, but that's in a way sort of the genius of the prequels, showing the Jedi and how they sort of lost their way. And maybe that is why the Force did a purge on the current Jedi, because they had lost their way spiritually. So, I mean, and I don't think there was anything wrong with looking at it scientifically, but if you're losing the spirituality of it as at the cost of looking at it scientifically, that's your problem.
Exactly.
And I think a good example of looking at it spiritually and scientifically is Darth Plagueis and the Plagueis Book. I love that book. I'm going to keep talking about it. So anybody that gets annoyed by it, I'm sorry. But like Plagueis talks a lot about the midi-chlorians, but he also I interpreted this in a different way than maybe everybody else that might have read it would. I don't know. If everybody here has read it, then let me know what you think about it. But I feel like he was looking at it in both ways. And I mean, they go into like a bunch of examples about, like, let's say meditating on the Force, but also manipulating the midi-chlorians and all that stuff. So they look at it in both scientific and spiritual. And I think that is the perfect balance of it. And I don't think that it's wrong to portray it that way. And the people that are like these purists of the original trilogy and acting like that midi-chlorians shouldn't exist, I feel like they're in a way sort of essential, because there should be. I mean, a lot of religions also, a lot of people try to find the science behind a lot of current like real life religions as well. So I feel like it's sort of essential to sort of mention that there is a scientific side to it, whether it's believable or not. I guess is up to however they make it out to be in the movies or books or whatever. But I feel like it's essential in a way. And maybe I didn't explain that the best way, but I hope you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I mean, there's another part of that is like, even the Sith were more spiritual when it came to the Force than the Jedi at that point.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, and I mean, in the way the book explained it, it seemed like Plagueis was trying to change the Force to be more dark, and the only way he could do that is by being spiritually attuned, like much more attuned than what the current Jedi seem to have been. He seemed to be more attuned with the Force, albeit the dark side, but he seemed to try to shift the Force into a darker direction, which, of course, eventually he did. Because in the book it sort of explains that the Force did shift a little bit towards the dark. Maybe a little more than a little bit. I'd have to reread it. But that I completely agree with that point, that the Sith seem to be a little more spiritual about the Force than the Jedi did. And that was a whole discussion from like a previous stream where they had lost their way and dealt more with the politics and the scientific side of everything than rather spending time on their religion rather than the science of it all and all that stuff. So yeah, I completely agree. Anybody else got anything to add to any of that? Nope. Maybe?
Nope.
Okay. I just want to make sure. All right, so we got one more, and then there's like a small little thing that I'm going to do at the end. I'm going to surprise everybody but Elder Jedi knows what I'm about to do at the very end. Wait, no, it's the other way around. Elder Jedi is the only one that knows what I'm about to do at the end. But do the cons outweigh the pros in both trilogies? So, Elder Jedi, go ahead.
On the prequels, I think so, but on the sequels, I'm not quite sure about that. Like the prequel has a lot of things you can go with. You can like continue on the story, what's going to happen next, and all that.
Mm-hmm.
On the sequels, though, they just like everyone says, the story didn't go anywhere. Well, it just ended up being a disaster at the end. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, what about you, Marshall? What do you think? Do the cons outweigh the pros?
That's a tough one, honestly. For the prequels, I say yes, because again, we are able to like look back at it fondly with memes. But the sequels, I really don't know. That's something that we have to wait and see. But yeah, that's really all that I got. I'm looking forward to that surprise. I'm pretty sure it'll be a surprise, but a welcome one.
It's not like super big, but it's something. I'm trying something. A friend of mine came to me at work the other day, and he sort of gave me an idea on what I can do at the end of each stream. So I'm going to try this out. It's something small. It's nothing like too huge or fantastic, but we'll see how it pans out. I'm going to try something small. Go ahead, Commander Tano, before I continue to ramble.
Got it. So in the case of the prequels, I'd say, well, of course, the pros outweigh the cons. Yeah, there are problems of execution, as most people say, with the prequels. But I think in terms of overall story, I think all of the good that those movies brought to the franchise, the pros win out. In terms of the sequels, my issue with the sequels is that for every kind of story door or window that JJ or Ryan would open, one or the other would promptly shut it. Whether it's things like Finn, whether it's things like Rey's parents, there's so many different points where they open up the possibility of, this is a great thing, let's pursue it, and then they either like kill that thing, like metaphorically or literally. And so yeah, it's as a result between that and I think the lack of convincing world building, the cons just outweigh the pros with those.
That was my feelings exactly, to be honest. I mean, and one of the things that really gets me about the sequel trilogy, and I gotta say, I really liked Poe and Finn in both of those movies, but I think Finn was the one I was most like interested in. And I'm going to play a sort of longer clip here if it'll show up for everybody, but this clip right here is going to sum up what my disappointment, and I'm going to play it right now before I continue.
It's too late. Don't do this. No, I won't let them win. No, get to the ball. We have to retreat.
I saved you. Tell me. That's how we're gonna win. Not fighting what we hate. Saving what we love.
I love how it I love how it cuts off like that at the end. I love it. But that scene, I wanted to talk about that specifically. I've been really wanting to say something about that. They were going to do something really cool with Finn. I mean, I didn't want Finn to die because I wanted to see more interesting stuff with Finn, but they clearly weren't going to do that. So taking out the First Order, or at least making a dent in the First Order, would have been, in a way, a fitting end for him. Doing something that was actually worth doing. But all we get is Rose basically ramming him with all the speed that she could, and somehow both of them surviving with no issue in front of the walkers that could just open fire upon them. I'm not even going to talk about all the wrong stuff there. I'm just going to say that I wanted to see more of Finn, but I also wanted to give him a satisfying conclusion, and I feel like we were about to get that, but not Finn, but Ryan Johnson and Rose decided to take that away. So, as far as the pros and cons outweighing whatever, the cons outweigh the pros on the sequels. That's what I say. I don't know if I answered this earlier. I feel like I started off with this one, but I can't remember. This stream has went on for an hour and 30 minutes, and I'm losing myself. But as far as for the prequels, the cons do not outweigh the pros. I personally love the prequels, if you haven't already been able to tell. But honestly, that's what the disappointment of the sequel trilogy is sort of summed up in how I feel about that particular scene as well. It's just that movie in general is really thrown off my expectations for Star Wars. Like, after that, I just sort of had lower expectations for everything. Then when The Mandalorian came out, I started to gain that expectation back. But, after, and I've mentioned this too many times, but after the firing of Gina Carano, I sort of just don't expect anything much anymore. Though I will say I am somewhat interested, if not a little more than somewhat interested in Bad Batch, and I do want to see what they do with that, because I mean it's more like a sequel to the Clone Wars, so of course it's probably going to be pretty good. But honestly, like and I'm sticking with my decision to cancel Disney Plus. I'm not getting it back as long as they keep doing what they're doing. But if they make a dramatic shift in what they've done, if they try to improve what they're doing, I mean, if they actually try, if they show that they want to make amends, then yeah, I'll go back for it. I'll reward people for doing good, but I'm not going to reward them while they're doing bad. So, that's my feelings on all this. Psycho, you didn't get to say much, so go ahead and say your piece.
Yeah,
know-
so I kind of share the. I'm just kind of gonna echo your thoughts. I definitely think that the cons outweigh the pros as far as the sequel trilogy is concerned. Even though that there are some positive aspects to it, I feel like my overall perception of it is kind of negative. It might have just be, you know, it might just be how hyped I was for each and every one of them, but I think it goes a lot deeper than that, considering I just feel like there's a lot of things that kind of fall flat on their face. But I also agree that I do think the pros outweigh the cons for the prequels. And, I really am fond of them. I know that they are not without their flaws as well, Um, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, that there's not so much content to be enjoyed there and to be discussed and theorized about and to be analytical about. And I don't know. I kind of don't have the same feeling about the sequel trilogy. Like, I enjoy it. I don't want to analyze it because I don't feel that desire. I just don't feel like there's much deeper than surface level there, to be 100% honest. But, maybe that's just my perception and that's wrong. I don't know.
I know. I agree with that. It's very surface level. There's really nothing buried underground. It's all just on top. So, there was one. Okay, so I guess everybody's got their feelings aside. Does anybody else have anything to add? Because I got one more thing I want to talk about real quick. It just came up. So, anybody got anything else to add?
Nope.
Nope.
Well, Marshall's done. He's gone. No, he'll be back, I'd say. Okay, so as far as and it just came to my head a little while ago, but Sir down here in the comments sort of reminded me as well. But there's been a lot of talk about Kathleen Kennedy either stepping down or being forced to leave or whatever. A lot of it is mostly rumor, but there's a lot of it, like a lot. So, do you think there's any? How's it go? Well, do you think there's any foundation for those rumors?
I think
Is that the word for it?
I think that it's definitely possible, considering, I mean, when at first there was all the backlash about Kathleen Kennedy. I think that the assumption that was kind of made by Disney and all those elites, the people on top that make the decisions, I think their assumption was just that Star Wars fans just kind of were going to hate anything, and that this was just the treatment that anyone was going to get. And then I really think The Mandalorian kind of served as a catalyst for what sort of changed that perception. Because once, which I don't know who the current CEO of Disney is. I don't think it's currently Bob Iger.
Bob Chapek. I think his name is Bob Chapek.
I think just once it could be, a very good example to them, seeing how accepted Favreau and Filoni have been comparatively, to be like, oh yeah, maybe there's something here worth listening to, because they're not treating these two groups of people the same way. Like, why? And I'm not saying that they actually listen this closely to us, because they probably don't. But if they did, they would probably make these types of observations.
Yeah. And a lot. Yeah, it is Bob Chapek. It is Bob Chapek. Okay, so I don't know if any of you guys have been following up with the rumors as much as I have. I'm subscribed to a lot of people, so I sort of watch a bunch of stuff on this kind of thing. And they've been saying it for years that she's out of here, but then her contract gets renewed, and then her contract, I think they're saying, won't be renewed this time. and that Jon Favreau will be taking over, which I don't know how much of that is true or if any of it is true at all. But a lot of people are saying that there's a lot of things changing, and some of the evidence is like their social media being a little more silent as of recently. And Sir has been keeping up with it. Thank you, Sir. But I honestly, like, besides the rumor, I don't know. I mean, I have no opinion yet. Anybody else got anything? Commander
I might
Tano?
have one.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I guess it may not be so much as I have an opinion on that particular rumor that that they might be gearing up to fire her now, as more just an opinion on why that hasn't happened for the past few years. It's what Chrono said, hiding after the Oscars thing. I do think to some extent they're trying to they're trying to hide her, but and she's probably trying to hide herself. But in terms of all these years, like, why haven't they gotten rid of her? When people are asking why haven't they fired her, I think maybe this is the law student in me who wants to talk about this. Part of what I'd be curious is I'd like to see the text of the contract, or more likely contracts, that she has with Disney and Lucasfilm, because Disney, Lucasfilm, they're going to be rational actors. They're going to make whatever that generally. I would think that they're going to want to make a decision that results in them losing less money, and so firing her in general is difficult. Because that could result, even if they have grounds to fire her, they could still end up having to pay a lot in terms of litigation fees or whatever could arise from that. So I think that's one thing to keep in mind. And we also don't know kind of what her relationships are with other executives in that company. I know some people have theorized, like, oh, she has dirt on so and so that's why she's still there. I think it more boils down to litigation is expensive, and so breaking a contract with her would be expensive. The other thing too, and this is, I'll say this because I'm a woman, and this is an elephant in the room thing, and I feel I can say this. I think part of the thing is if they fired her, there will be people who would claim that it's because, not that they would claim, like, oh, well, Disney's fired her, and so therefore they're sexist. And that's extremely unfortunate, because I think firing her would be consequence culture, because she has botched so much with this franchise. I think she needs to be replaced with someone who doesn't make, and it isn't just like she's made one mistake. We've seen kind of a track record of years of mistakes made, and you should fire someone for that. But I think because of what has happened with Star Wars, how highly politicized and polarized the fan base has become, and how the corporate culture there, I think Disney, even if Disney wanted to fire her, I think they're definitely thinking that, if we fire her, could we get some lawsuit, regarding not just maybe breaking of contracts, but employment discrimination, stuff like that. So there aren't a lot of ways to get rid of her that don't also have the potential to cost Disney a lot of money. And so they could also be, they may have to think of other ways to kind of make sure she can't mess with the story making part of Lucasfilm and so forth. And the other problem is that I think she is responsible, as the leader, so she has a lot to answer for. I think also you have other employees at Lucasfilm who need to be out as well. There's a whole corporate culture that needs to be changed, and I think getting rid of Kennedy could help a lot with that to a great degree. But I think there are also some other people there that you have to weed out as well, or just make sure that they don't have as much power as they currently do. But yeah, I think some of that boils down to even if Disney was all on board with getting rid of her, there are a lot of financial obstacles to doing that. So, and we don't know so much about those because that's where I'd love to see what contract she has with Disney, and and it's probably contracts plural, and what that might, and that probably would tell us a whole lot more about what Disney's options are for getting rid of her.
Another thing though, like, and this is something that maybe a lot of people don't think about, and you might have word on this too, but like, would it be better that she gets fired? I mean, think about it, because we could get somebody that's either better, or we have also the chance of getting somebody that is twice as bad. So just because we lose her doesn't mean that we've won anything. And yes, if anybody else has watched Echo Base Network, I got that idea from them. They got me thinking about that. Just because we lose Kathleen Kennedy doesn't mean that we're going to get something better. And also, that doesn't mean that if she stays in there, doesn't mean that we won't get something better. I mean, she would have to make a dramatic change, but I don't honestly believe that she will. So getting rid of her is probably our best chance of getting something better, but at the same time, we could end up getting something worse. And that's something else to consider when you want her fired, So, anybody else got anything to say, or do you have more to say, Commander Tano?
No, I'd say 100% agreed. I don't, I can't kind of really imagine at the moment like what would be worse, but I can get the point that you could get something worse, and that is something also to be mindful of. Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be worse, but maybe just about the same. Maybe not as bad, but still bad. But still, I mean, if it's not improving,
maybe just as bad, but worse in a different way.
Yeah. I mean, if it's not improving, then it's not better. So,
Completely agree.
And we all want Star Wars to improve. We're all Star Wars fans here. Everybody that's watching is Star Wars fans, I would assume, because that's what this channel is for Star Wars fans. So, all you watching, I believe you guys also want to see Star Wars in a better state. Currently, Star Wars isn't in the greatest state, with either actors getting fired for whatever political opinion they've posted, or just a bunch of political messages being thrown into all these movies and whatever that they produce, which is and another thing. They're bringing, and I've mentioned this in a previous stream, but they're bringing back old Lucasfilm content, which and I think they could be using some of it as a template for some of their. And a lot of people have been talking about this, so this isn't just me coming up with all this on the spot. I've been looking into a lot of this stuff, but they could be using some of this stuff as templates for their, anything new that they create, which would be pretty cool if they do it right. But that, that's also like supposed to be some sort of evidence for change in leadership. So, as far as that stuff goes, I mean, I don't know what to say about it. I mean, it's probably a smart move to use the old EU for future projects, but I do see why they think it's evidence, because from the very beginning, it seems that Kathleen Kennedy herself has just hated the original EU. So if it was her leadership, then she must have made a dramatic change in what she thought originally, because she seems to hate the EU, the old EU, and want instead of making something of her own. So, and we said this in a previous stream as well, that she, from what we've been able to gather from seeing what she's done, she's wanted to create more of her own Star Wars. That's why she got rid of all the other EU stuff, because she wanted to make her own thing and make Star Wars her own. Not or maybe not just her, but Disney's and Lucasfilms, their own version of Star Wars. So, I mean, that's just some other things to consider. Does anybody else have anything to say on that before we get to the little surprise at the end?
I don't. I actually agree with you.
Okay, awesome. What about you, Psycho?
I have nothing to add.
Okay. Well, I got one small thing here. It's a little bit of trivia. It's also sort of like a fun fact type of thing. If because I'm going to give out the answer to this question in just a minute. I'm going at the end of each of these streams, I'm going to try to do something like this. Do either maybe a single trivia question or something like that, or maybe just give a fun fact. That's the little surprise that I was talking about. Like I said, it wasn't anything huge. I'm gonna ask a question, and I'm going to ask each of you to give me your answer, and then after everybody's given me their answer, I will give out the answer. It's simple. All right. So the question is, what was Darth Bane known for changing? Like, what change did he bring about that he is most known for? And we'll start with you, Elder Jedi.
I'm not very familiar with Darth Bane. I'm not caught up with all the books and all that stuff, but I have no answer for this one, so I'm sorry.
Okay. What about you, Commander Tana? Do you know? Tell me what you think.
Yeah, I'm stumped too. I apologize.
No, it's
hopefully
okay.
someone else will come through.
It's okay. What about you, Marshall?
I got this. The rule of two.
Okay, what about you, Psycho?
That was what I was just gonna say. Darth Bane created the rule of two. So,
Okay, well, you two are correct. And for everybody that didn't know that, it's a fun fact that you know now, which is very awesome. You get to learn some stuff here. Sir said, was it the rule of one? No,
the rule
sir,
of
it was
one.
the rule of two.
Maybe for
Two.
Mike Wazowski.
I'm just kidding. It's okay. But yeah, I feel like that's going to be like a little interesting segment that I add at the end of these streams. But I'm going to try, like, that one's for like the more hardcore, like lore readers and all that stuff. But the rule of two is a very interesting thing. And, you know, the fact that he came up with that, like, I need to read up more on Bane because I knew he was the one that created that. They talked a little bit about it in the Plagueis book, but that's not where I learned it. I already knew that beforehand. But, you know, a lot of this old lore stuff is very interesting. So you'll learn a few fun facts along the way with us starting this stream. So fun times. Anybody else got anything to say?
That was a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. I had to say. That's all.
Okay.
That is all, folks.
That is all, folks. Let's see. You type that. Just got the wrong. Okay. Yeah, he knew it. He knew it. He knew it. He ran across the house to type that. And he just got the wrong number. That's funny. It's okay, sir. It's okay. I understand. Well, let's see. If anything else to say about this, and as far as I've got like a couple of things to say here. I haven't told you this, Psycho, but I do have that party link cable now, so we can start making the gaming videos that we want to do.
Awesome.
Yes. We're going to hopefully start that pretty soon. I'm still doing a little bit of rearranging in here, so it might be a couple of days. But as far as announcements go, that's really the only announcement I got is that I'm actually making progress. So I don't have much to talk about now. I just got progress done. That's all. Anyways, it has been really good having everybody on here. We're probably going to just go ahead and end the stream. I'm glad. Well, even Sir down here is glad that it wasn't a 3-hour stream. Be glad I wasn't on the stream. It would be a 3-hour stream. Yes, it would be 3 hours. I know this for a fact. But you know what? I might try to up the number to 6 people at some point. I don't know. I'm just experimenting right now. This was a different format than what I'm used to, so I'm trying to improve it. And I know there was a few technical difficulties with this stream, so it may not have been the best stream, but I'm liking sort of what we're doing here.
I like it too.
You do?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that it's one focused topic and then a few like sub questions about it.
Yeah. See, I wanted to ask you guys your opinion on this because I figured that this would be the best way to do it, and plus it would give me more to talk about in future streams instead of getting like a bunch of topics all done at once, one topic at a time. I feel like we can go way more into depth with them. So that was my thought process here, and I just wanted to know what you guys thought about that. You think it went well?
Yeah, I really like this format for sure. I think that it's a little more refined and a little less all over the place. To do the kind of one topic, like we said, with just a couple of like sort of sub questions.
Yeah, this topic, it sort of just came. I had a hard time figuring out what I was going to do for this one, so this was all from scratch and sort of last minute. About a couple of days ago, I finally got the idea of what I wanted to do with this and how to do it. But honestly, I'm very happy. It's let's see. Chrono says it's better organized. So yeah, go ahead with this. Okay, thank you, Chrono. Thank you. I'm very glad for all the input I get. So if anybody else has anything to say about it, maybe any of you might have an idea of what I can do to improve this. Just go ahead, lay it on me. I'm open. So
I really like the idea. It's a great organization and allows for a better content flow on individual streams and in the future. I think the technical difficulties that we had here is probably just the program itself that we're using.
Yeah.
So I've actually have a background with this stuff. If you're welcome to it, I can we can work together and something a little bit that may work.
I would like that. I would like that. I really would. We're gonna have, yeah, we'll do that for sure. I'll teach me your ways, Master Marshall.
Sounds great. I'll have Psycho get us. I keep on saying his name, but where he can have us have contact. English, it's hard.
Oh man, yeah, I know it. If anybody here has any ideas at any time, like maybe I don't know if I want can like. Do you guys like the turn-based thing? I sort of like it, but I feel like
I think it's cool.
It's a great idea.
It gives everybody a chance to speak.
Yeah,
it allows to think too.
Yeah, I mean we had a bit of a problem with that a couple streams ago where everybody was sort of talking over each other, and I wanted to make sure that everybody got their piece in. So I'm trying different things. This is all trial and error. So I'm glad that everybody here is bearing with me on this until I like this single topic format that I'm doing. So I think I'm going to stick with that. And if everybody else likes it, then I'm for sure going to stick with it. It's less chaos. Let's see. Discord PS4. Well, I guess I'm just going to go ahead and end the stream since we're at the 2-hour mark. I really want to thank everybody here for being here. You can follow Commander Tano, Marshall, and I on Twitter. Commander Tano's at Lady Tano 501st. I'm trying to get Marshall's on here because he just followed me.
You can follow me on Instagram at Peyton Stewart. Or nope, actually I changed my handle. You can follow me on Instagram at dreaded_Peyton.
And
And-
you can follow me on Twitter and on Instagram at Marshall Durham.
Yes, follow them, people. Follow them. They're beautiful people. I love them. What about you, Jedi? Do you got any social media you want people to follow you on?
No, right now I'm slowly getting all my stuff together, but I'll give you guys updated about it later.
Okay, awesome. And then I'm TFC Star at TFC Star Wars on Twitter. I also have an Instagram as well, The Force Collective. That's all I got currently. So, you can follow us, and I'll try to keep everybody updated on the. Well, I don't use the Instagram much. You'll probably find me more on Twitter than anything else. So follow me there if you want to, if you don't already, because I know a couple here do for sure. It's been great having everybody here. I am very glad to have had this experience, and it's a good learning experience doing all these streams like this and experimenting. So I'm glad that you guys are here for the journey.
Thank you all for having me.
Yes. After you told me about the tragedy of Darth Plagueis, I knew I wanted you. So
It's a story the Jedi wouldn't tell you.
no, it's a legend. Oh man, this is gonna be fun. I want to have you on here more often. So if you're willing to come back on here at any time, you're welcome to join. So
that sounds wonderful. I'd love to.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear it. And thank you guys, all of you, the entire 5 people that stayed on here. This is probably the most I've had all at once, which is pretty amazing. It's a little milestone of my own. I'm getting worked up over 5 people. I love it. But I think this is about the most I've had in a single stream view at the same time. So 5 people. All 5 of you are awesome. I love you. I'm done rambling. Respect each other and respect yourselves. I'm having a hard time saying words today.
English
And I'll work on my public speaking. I've never been good at it, but I'll work on it. And may the force be with us all, because we all need it. Isn't that right? Isn't that right, Psycho? Tell me.
We all need it.
Yes.
we all need it.
Yes. Like and subscribe.
Do it.
Or he'll come for you. All right. We're actually going this time. Okay. Thank you guys. Love you guys. And we will see you next time.
We're going with the outro.